What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Anton Quigley, bringing the latest tips, tricks and techniques for all your contemporary painting and drawing needs, and welcome back to another video. I've just realised my beard is getting exceptionally long. I feel like I've not trimmed it for absolutely ages. Anyway, I'll try and pull off some hipster vibe or something like that anyway. But anyway, if you like the beard, get into the comments, let me know. Now today's video is all about collages. Now there's a vast array of doing different collages and there's no exact right way, wrong way. And today I thought I'd bring you my way of doing it. I have done different ways of doing some collages, but this one's quite organised, it's got a method to it, and you end up with a pretty decent outcome at the end of it. Now more specifically, this type of collage that I'm doing is inspired by an artist goes the name of Robert Rauschenberg, who's an American artist, and he was about the time when the abstract expressionism movement was going on. Now Robert Rauschenberg creates an eclectic variety of different pieces of work, but I'm more interested in the screen printing and the layered process using paints, almost like a gritty nature to the artwork. So it's not all clean and pretty, there's almost like a juxtaposition between images and laying them up over the top of them. So I thought I'd use that as a bit of inspiration. But I've used a couple of other artists as well, just in the back of my mind. Go by the name of Kate Boyce, she's a really cool artist from the northwest of England, and also Rob Wilson, who uses a number of different collages in his work, such as the dressmaking paper, which I'll be using today. So, without further ado, we've got lots to crack on with. I'll see you in a minute.
Right, let's get on with the video. And the first thing that I'm going to do is put some tape down first within my collage. Now the reason why I'm putting it in a cross, it just helps with rule of thirds, to be honest. I don't like putting things directly in the middle, so it just gives me some anchor points. And I've just used some masking tape, that's all. And I've also got some newspaper, some grid paper, and also some pages from books. Now here I'm going to use some gesso, but you could use some maybe normal household emulsion or even acrylic, to be honest. But I'm just going to be using this to scrape over the surface. And what I'm using is some mount board. And I've just cut it up into some strips of a variety of different lengths and thicknesses. Now I'm just putting it in horizontal and vertical ways, and I'm just making sure it's relatively thin. What I'm doing here is just almost cementing and laminating those pieces of paper together to make it easier to draw over the top of the multi layers. Now I'm going to make sure I hair dry this before putting the next layer on. That is essential. So I've hair dried it now, and I'm going to get my acrylic base down, and I'm going to be using a damp cloth for this. So I've just put it on some scrap piece of paper because it's just going to go in the bin and it saves washing up here. So I've just got my damp cloth, and what I'm going to be using is just some yellow and red, and that's going to make some orange, add some white to it, so it's almost like a pale peachy colour, but you can choose whatever colour you want to. Now I want it lighter more than a darker shade of colour. Now here I'm just working in a circular motion, trying to get all to the nuts and crevices. You can dip a bit more red into, or yellow, depending if you wanted kind of more streaks or, you know, shapes of colour in the background, or you can just have one complete tone, it doesn't matter. Here I've actually put some more white into the surface because it's a little bit too strong, and then I can use the clean side of the cloth just to knock back that paint, and you'll see now the actual primer underneath starting to reveal through. Now once that's sorted and left to dry, I'm now going to move on to my photocopies. Here I've just got a picture of New York, and I'm going to cut around the edges. Now this is my acrylic transfer, and I'm going to be using a gloss medium made by Winsor & Newton. This is perfect, but there's plenty of other gel mediums out there that does the same thing, such as Mod Podge and a few other companies. Just make sure it's fully wet when you are turning it over, and place it in the position that you desire. Now here I'm just going to put a piece of paper over the top just to make sure that I can solidly make sure that the picture is adhered to the surface. Again, hair dry it first, and then once it's hair dried and stuck onto the surface, use some water just with your finger, and then rub off all the paper, and the image should be revealed. Just remember, the image will come back to front. Now when you hair dry it, you will see subtly elements of the paper still remaining, unless you really go to town and get it all off. But one way of easily getting rid of that is using the gloss medium again and just doing a light covering of the surface, and it should bring back the image to a lovely finish. Now while that's wet, I'm actually going to use this dress paper. Never really used it before, but the beautiful thing about it is that these lines are on it, which are really quite nice to put into my artwork, but also that it's translucent. So we will be using some tracing paper later on in the piece of work, but I thought I'd just use this as well. It just adds another textural quality. And instead of just tearing it, I'm just folding it over the edge to make it easier. Again, leave it to dry. And here I've actually got some photocopies, but on the settings, you can actually change the colours. So I've gone for a blue and a red. Now, all of these images I took when I was in New York, and I thought to myself, these would be quite cool and fit in well with the, the inspired of Robert Rauschenberg. Now, I'm just working out where this would go. I could actually cut around a bit of the image to make it a little bit more interesting, repeat the process as I did before, and then rub off the paper. And as you can see, now I've got a blue photocopy instead of just a black one. And the reason why I've used blue, it's a complementary to orange, and I thought it worked really, really well. So here I'm just putting that final layer on, just cementing it into the surface. Now at the moment, it's struggling for a lot of tone in there. So I thought I'd put to myself some tissue paper and then kind of work into the surface that way. But I didn't really like in the position that it was, even though it was transparent, I felt like it was covering up too much of the image. So even though I did want it in there, I decided to just move it into more of a subtle area, just that it's not obscuring much of the piece. So sometimes you have to do that, but just work quickly, just so it doesn't dry in time and leave marks on your page. Now, once that's dried on there, we want some extra tone, but another use of material. Now in this one, I'm going to use Floetrol, which is a paint conditioner. Now this just thins the paint, but not like water. And it's a little bit like the gloss medium, to be honest, but it's a lot cheaper. You get a lot more of it, and it doesn't dry completely glossy and sticky. So tremendous, great piece of kit if you want to thin down your paint. And here I just want to create that translucency quality, still keeping the quality of line, but using a wider brush now and just blocking in sections. So I'm looking out for leading lines in my artwork, or areas where it's almost forcing me to do a section of a different colour. And I'll try and discover that within my piece of work. Now, this probably images aren't the best for that, but if you get a few different images, you will be able to, block in certain areas. And this is just another example. You can see the hatching or the crossing. I've decided to use a blue and a burnt umber just to get that subtle same colour, and trying to replicate or duplicate the marks that I can see in the piece of work there. Now, you will also notice that some of the transfer has actually started to peel up. That's just because I didn't have enough liquid on there, though it looks like a quite nice worn quality. So if you want that one, you can do. And here I'm just kind of extending the line of the bridge, darken it a little bit more, and then bringing it to the forefront. Now this colour here is actually two complementaries, which is the orange and the blue mixed together, added with a white, and then I'm using some sgraffito to scratch through into the surface. I thought I'd just play around with the surface, add some texture in there, and there I'm doing it again, following along lines, kind of blocking in areas. But collage is all about making mistakes. Here I felt it was a little bit too dark, though it would be quite nice if I rubbed it back and it's almost got an aged look to it. So again, try and experiment how you get on now. Now I'm going to use some drawing inks, and I really like the look of splashes in the artwork. Just breaks up the the area. And here I'm just blocking in more sections, but with darker areas of ink. And again, just laying up that process, and so I can see the the layers previously. And the final thing that I'm going to be coming onto is some white acrylic paint. So I feel like at the moment I've got some darker edges, but I feel like I need some lighter ones. So instead of actually painting like a light yellow or a light orange, I'm painting white on, let that dry, and then what I'll do is with a translucent colour over the top of it, I'll go back over, and those highlights will then be in almost harmony with the rest of the piece of artwork. They won't be so strong. Now again, I'm just playing around with it. I actually didn't leave the paint enough to dry, and so it started to mess up a little bit more, so I rubbed it off and then started to put back in there. But these happy mistakes will add to the quality of your artwork. So as I keep on adding the layers up on here, I'm thinking the top left looks a little bit boring, so I might put another transfer of there, but I don't want it too big. I've seen that there's a traffic light. I might put one of those in there too. Now here I decided to put some more white paint on and scratch it through on the surface, so I got rid of that grey, and here I'm just using some scumbling techniques, almost giving it a bit of a highlight or just a halo so it stands out from the background, giving it a kind of a multi layer on there, and also scratching back into it, and you'll get quite a nice effect. Now that's it, guys. I added a little bit more. I added some blue dots on there. I've kind of worked in surface a little bit more. You could do some drawing, which would really look quite nice. But yeah, give it a try. You never know what the result's going to be, and don't try and plan it, because it won't work the way you want to.
Well, that's it, guys. Another video done and dusted, and hopefully you found it enjoyable and informative as always. And if it was of value, feel free to give me a like. I do really appreciate it. Comments are always welcome. It's lovely to see if they've inspired you, or maybe you've got some other ideas for future videos. I always take them on board, and I always try and get back to every single person that does send me a message. And if you love this video even more, then hit that subscribe button to see more future content and tap that notification bell so you know when I'm next uploading. Well, that's it. I'm going to leave it there until the next video. I'll see if I keep this beard or it does my head in, but we'll see what happens. Make sure, stay creative, guys. Look after yourself, and I'll see you very soon. See you later. Bye.